My name is Nico Steves. Podcasts this summer season will run 15 minutes each in a re-release of my book, The Constant Procession, the history of the Virgin Mary since she passed on. I'd like to thank you for your listening to these weekly Constant Procession podcasts, and also for purchasing plus spreading the word about my book, The Very Fine Light, which is available on Amazon.com. This summer I'll also be traveling to complete my next book, and I will be bringing you a few reports from the field about this upcoming book. And so, please keep checking my website, nicosteves.com, as I will be posting blog updates from time to time. By the way, keep me posted on what you're up to in the comments section of my website or via email at nicosteves@gmail.com. And now, enjoy this installment of The Constant Procession. Installment 12. World War I took away many good people whose characters gave the ultimate sacrifice. They gave their lives in selfless, Christ-like manner to protect others. And so with this war came the premature loss of such souls at young ages, squelched as they fought in war, or when they had to stand for freedom in the face of oppressive regimes. These fallen soldiers became the first to die in military battles and political purges. Without these role models to help raise the bar of humanity, those left standing tended to be of a more cynical, even fatalistic nature, and at war's end, they became the new majority of the population. And those traits, those characteristics, tended to complement the rise of atheism's rule as small c communism turned into big C communism. And as for the realities of the world this created, the world economy broke down for over 2 generations. Might makes right became the rule, as the Madonna predicted. Cynicism, rather than faith, took center stage in the minds of men, as the Roaring Twenties, with its time of wild excess and opulence, became the outcome. A time of extravagant entertainment, a time where unguided use of free will degenerated into a time where anything goes. With its endless climb of stock market profits, supported a renewed faith in man's abilities. Berlin, Paris, London, New York, in the Roaring Twenties, with great speed, opened the world up to everything new. Increased paper wealth on one continent, inflation on another. Inventions opened up the world. People became drunk on the possibilities of a better world made by man. On the tail end of this course of wild activity came economic decimation. The stock market came crashing down, plunging the industrial world into a decade-long depression. Major social unrest followed, compounded in the U.S. by the Dust Bowl, a natural disaster that uprooted millions of Americans from all walks of life. At the same time, waves of Europeans tried to leave their homelands and flee starvation, the direct result of the decimation World War I caused in their homelands. In Germany, after World War I, their heavy war burden and resulting economic crisis led to unrest. The beleaguered German people turned to Hitler's vision of a new world for relief. The rise of Hitler, from the ashes of a destroyed Germany, took its horrific toll on the world. A world on a route in the wrong direction of might is right. And so, in a world that popularized man's intellectual ability and encouraged the turning away from God and religious practice, in this new world without prayer, the humiliated and the downtrodden followed those most vocal and turned instead to resentment and cruelty rather than the guidance from the words of the Madonna. The words pure cruelty reflect the nature of Nazi deeds. Escape from this whirlpool of hatred and aggression became the exception rather than the rule. An odd sidebar, illustrating the pure hatred and arrogance of these times, involved still another of Hitler's infatuations, his extreme interest in the occult. It is common knowledge about the Nazis' quest for valuables and riches, favoring great works of art and rare artifacts. In particular, Hitler wanted to own Jesus Christ's Shroud of Turin, Even today, historians aren't sure just why. Meanwhile, at the Vatican, Pope Pius XII sees before him a world back at war. He studies the secrets of Fatima. The first secret is borne out. It is hell on earth, and the task of what to do finds its solution in the Madonna. Chapter 21, The Root of the Great Return. Sister Lucia is the last of the Fatima seers still alive. In 1940, she sends a message to Pope Pius XII. The message, quote, to have the people consecrate themselves to the heart of the Madonna. And so on the 25th anniversary of the Fatima apparition, Pope Pius XII takes action. He consecrates the Roman Catholic world to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. According to the dictionary, to consecrate is, quote, to freely dedicate oneself to a permanent position or state of being, unquote. The goal of this act, this first official response from the Roman Catholic Church to the requests of Fatima, became an effort to orient and inspire the whole Church's devotion in the future. Bishops consecrated their dioceses to the Madonna. Parish priests consecrated their parishes. And the faithful began to consecrate themselves. With great urgency, the Pope invited the entire Christian people to unite themselves towards the Madonna. With this proclamation came remarkable results. From the year 1942 through 1948 came a number of decisive events in the development of devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. One by one, country after country took action best as they could in a world immersed in war. In Italy during 1942, many parishes consecrated themselves to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. In 1943, the movement of consecrations to the Immaculate Heart of Mary had continued to grow. In Spain, it went beyond parishes. All sorts of religious, military, and civil associations would perform this act of devotion to the Madonna. In France, the Archbishop of Paris fixed the date, Sunday, March 28, 1943, for the consecration of every diocese in France to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. This consecration turned into a phenomena known as the Great Return. The Great Return had its roots in 1938, when 4 reproductions of a famous statue, known as Our Lady of Bologna, visited almost 200 parishes in the north of France. The Great Return turned into a new march. It began at Lourdes, France. The central focus of this procession used the same statue, Our Lady of Bologna. However, they changed her name for the march. Her statue then became known as Our Lady of the Great Return. During the day, the statue of Our Lady of the Great Return would be at the head of a march on foot from parish to parish. The parades continued in summer under the sun, in the frost of fall, in winter in the snow. Reports told of a remarkable surge of new faithful, new prayers, and conversions which took place at every parish along the course of the parade route. The story of this copy of the statue, known as Our Lady of Bologna, and the history of the original is intriguing. They called the original Our Lady of the Sea. It had been destroyed in the late 1700s during the anti-religious times. The original came from the Middle Ages and is considered miraculous. Bologna is a town on the seacoast of France. The cathedral there had been rebuilt, and like the fabled phoenix, it rose from the ashes after it had been completely destroyed during the anti-religious times. Started in 1820s by Father Heffring, who dedicated himself to this grand effort. He promised to build the main steeple, quote, as tall as a prayer. Yet the story goes back much further. In the year 636 A.D., an apparition of the Madonna appeared to the villagers in the seaside town of Bologna. Towards twilight, the people had been in their chapel worshiping, when the Madonna appeared and told the people inside to go to the river's edge, where a visitor was waiting. Amazement filled the room as they quickly ran to the river's edge, finding an empty boat, without sails, oars, or people, but on which stood a wooden statue of the Madonna, who was front and center. Her statue was about 3 feet tall, and she was holding on to a young Jesus. The atmosphere filled with an extraordinary peace, calm, and happiness. And so here in the middle of World War II, a copy of this statue found itself leading the March of the Great Return. Quote, "The Great Return that began on Sunday, March 28, 1943, was an extraordinary mystical event, undoubtedly the vastest homage given to the Mother of God on our land of France," observed a Roman Catholic priest, Father Devenot, who became its enthusiastic historian. Father Devenot had been one of the organizers of this procession. In his memoirs, he chronicled the start of, quote, "Our Lady of the Great Return." The statue from an apparition in Bologna left the apparition site at Lourdes, France, after being inspired by the 25th anniversary of the apparition of Fatima. Embarking on this spiritual tour in Nazi-occupied France. As the prestigious journey began, it was intended to last for 6 months, processing along the road from Lourdes to Bartels, France. But remarkably, by word of mouth, it continued and continued on, seemingly by osmosis. It continued to several countries in Europe, and then from there on to the rest of the world. It visited over 83 dioceses of France within 5 years. The program was simple. During the daytime, the marches moved from one parish to another. In the evening, the people came and spent time around the pulpit and the confessional. Then around 10:30 p.m., there would be a great prayer vigil, many times to a filled church. At midnight, there was a Mass of Communion with a consecration to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. People signed formulas of consecration to Our Lady saying, quote, "To show my will to be more and more faithful to my God and my country, I consecrate myself to the Immaculate Heart of Mary," unquote. After Mass, compact groups remained in the church for a vigil of adoration lasting the entire night, until the departure for another parish the following day. A few hours of sleep, and in the morning everybody left. It was Lourdes every day. In several parishes of France, waves of grace seemed to flow. On the road, there was endless song and prayer for hours. Many walked barefoot, unquote. In 1963, reflecting back, Father Devenot wrote, "It is difficult after 20 years to realize to what extent an entire people rose up in enthusiasm and fervor under the fragile appearance of statues that passed by, and how the presence of the Mother of God was hidden. She was the great converter, the great missionary," unquote. In effect, the great journey of Mary, Queen and Patroness of France, across her fair domain, as Pope Pius XII said at the culmination of the trek, above all, helped gather a great return of souls to Jesus through Mary, by means of consecration to her Immaculate Heart. The missionaries who followed Our Lady over the roads of France can testify that along the paths of Mary they heard the most sincere and loyal avowals. With German occupation of France and their collaborators in the Vichy French government restricting the French people, this simple act of marching an icon through the country offered no great challenge to the occupation. However, this forgotten procession, known as the Great Return, instilled what had been lost for many of the French people at the time. It gave them hope. The civil authorities showed their favor, and, in spite of the patriotic character of this innocent movement of popular piety, the German occupiers created no obstacle. Unquote. This overlooked part that the Madonna played became an enigma to the military powers of this Second World War. This endless procession of the Great Return ran counter to the self-serving fight for dominance wrought by these leaders and their loyal warriors. And so as the Allied forces struggled against the military aggression of the Nazi powers, they gained another unexpected source of strength and support from this new legion of French citizens as the Great Return Marathon continued throughout Europe, inspired and coaxed along by the surviving Fatima seer, Sister Lucia. This new spiritual strength, in combination with the approval by popular culture in the USA, who had embraced the 1941 book and 1943 Hollywood box office hit about the Lourdes apparition that had been written by an intellectual, to fulfill his pledge to the lady, helped shore up the Allies in their fight for survival at those critical times of World War II. In France, this movement did not become a major religious watershed, yet it did save France during the years 1944 through 1947 from a complete communist takeover, which had almost turned France over to the Bolshevik camp. As for the many who participated in the Great Return, they found many graces through conversion and supernatural treasures, which for them held an incalculable, eternal value. This is Nico Steves. I hope you enjoyed this installment. My book, The Very Fine Light, can be found using the title, The Very Fine Light, on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at nicosteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends. This is Nico Steves. Thank you. See you next time.